Okay, so we just talked about the 5 C's of how to determine your property's value. And so now what I want to do is show you how you can actually go to a site on the website and find your own comps. How do you find those comps? Because probably 99% of people are not actually real estate agents, don't have access to the MLS to find comps that way. But there are definitely tools that make it easy and fun actually to look at your property's value. So, and because California is what we call a disclosure state, means that whenever a property sells, it's actually public information how much that property sold for. So, for example, like in Mississippi, if you sell a house, that property is private. Only realtors can see that information. You can't see that as just if you're not a licensed agent. So in California, we actually have that advantage. We can see, even people that aren't licensed agents can see these other comps. So I'm going to show you today how you can find some good, accurate comps so you can determine your property's value. So one of my favorite places to go, and probably one of the most common places, is people like to go to Zillow.com. Zillow.com, Realtor.com, Redfin, those are probably three of the most popular sites that people like to go check out. But instead of just using what Zillow calls the Zestimate, when you first type in your property and you look it up, people get really excited because they're like, boom, Zillow says my house is worth this. That's exactly how much I would get today. It's not always as easy as that. It can be close, it can get you in the right ballpark, but it's not always exactly accurate because Zillow will take comps from places that are way too far out. Some it'll either price it too high or too low because some property might have been a huge property with a lot of land and might have had a really nice pool and solar and just completely remodeled in the last 6 months. They'll match that, and they don't have the ability to compare that with something that's a little bit older, a little bit smaller, no pool or solar. There's really no algorithm there for all that stuff. So it'll lump that in with all the other comparables. But it'll also, on the other end, sometimes it'll lump in a property that was just completely destroyed. Maybe it was vacant for a while. Maybe there was some tenants that completely trashed it. And so maybe a cash buyer walked in and paid $200,000 for it. Well, it'll also take that into account when it's trying to give you your estimate. So you don't want to just go off of what these sites estimate right from the get-go. You want to dig a little bit deeper and find the real value. So today I'm going to show you how to do that. And I've got Zillow.com pulled up here because it's probably one of the more popular sites that people like to go to. They're familiar with it. So right now what I did is I just typed in this address for this house. We actually just sold this house a couple months ago. And I wanted to show you how you can do some of these comps yourself. So I type in the address here in the top left corner. It kind of brings me to it. And then you have these options here. You want to make sure that you toggle this to sold. You want to make sure you're only looking at sold properties because some people will list properties, but they'll list it too high, too low. It's not a real accurate reading of what people are willing to pay. If the property is already sold and closed, then you know exactly how much someone was willing to pay. So we want to make sure that we're doing just the solds. And then we want to, the main thing is we want to make sure that it's close. We want to follow our 5 C's that we talked about. We want to follow that it's close to the property, so about a quarter mile to a half mile. So right here, we got up to Galway Bay here, maybe down to Campus Park, maybe to Prairie Stone a little bit. That's probably about a quarter to a half mile. That's as far as you really want to go, maybe a little bit further out. If we just don't have that many comps, you can start to go a little bit further out. But we want to make sure that it's close. And then after that, we want to make sure that the characteristics are the same. So we'll go here to beds and baths. We'll make sure that if your house has 3 bedrooms, you want to make sure that it's a 3-bedroom. And then 2 bath, we'll just say that your house is a 3-bed, 2-bath. You want to make sure that it has all the same. Most of these are 3-2s as well. And we'll make sure that the home type, we want to make sure that it's not pulling in mobile homes or apartments or lots of land or anything. So we want to just do houses, make sure that that's what we're getting there. And then we'll go into more. And the different sites have it laid out a little bit differently. Sometimes Redfin is a little bit different as well. But we want to go into square footage. That's pretty big. So, if your house is, say, 1,600 square feet, we'll go 1,500 to 1,750, give ourselves a little bit of a range. And then lot size, you want to get somewhat close. Sometimes it's hard to determine your lot size. Even sites like Zillow, if you scroll down to property information, will usually have what your lot size is if you're wondering about it. But for the most part, they're usually, in this neighborhood especially, between 5,000 and 7,500 square feet. So we'll just put that in. And then you can put year built in if you want and if you know it. And then now we're looking at some of our comps. See, there's a lot less than there was just a minute ago because we made it close to the property. We fit the proper characteristics of the property. And so now we're looking at, we've got a comp here of 335 that just sold, 318, 257, 368, 280. We want to also make sure that the comps are, see, look at this, sold in the last 6 months or so. That's our third C, is the condition of the market. We want to make sure that it's been sold fairly recently. So we're not getting comps from 2020, 2019. See, now we only have a comp of 368. This one just sold for 385. So we can zoom out a little bit more because it's still kind of in the same neighborhood. But we don't want to go too far. We're kind of maybe 3/4 of a mile out at this point. This is 340, 415, 412. See, down here you're starting to get into a different bracket, different type of home. Maybe it's a little bit more expensive. So it's sometimes, if you have too tight of a criteria, see, we really only have a couple comps here, 385, 368, 340. Sometimes it's a good idea to relax your criteria. You don't want to go too tight. You really want about 5 to 10 good comps that you can use. We can back up a little bit further, and these are okay. So when we were listing this property, we actually listed it. We wanted to list it a little bit below where we thought the market value was to get that bidding war that we talk about all the time. So we were looking at these comps. This one's 1,600 square feet, right around the same square footage, and it sold for 340. This one's 368, 355, and 350. This one hadn't sold yet, 388, and so we priced it right around 349 because we figured it would probably sell about 360, 365, something like that. And we got a crazy bidding war. We actually got this thing to set the comps for the rest of the neighborhood, $385,000, $36,000 over asking price, and it was an all cash offer. It was awesome. Closed in like 2 weeks. It was unbelievable. But so that's what we were looking at for the comps. 340, 350s, 360s, kind of a little bit all over 350s. So we wanted to make sure we didn't go too far above. So 349, then we got our bidding war that we were looking at. And what we do as well, once you have these comps, you want to click on them. You want to start going through some of these pictures. You want to see, are they completely updated? You see this one has some tile countertops. It's just a little bit older, a little bit outdated, but certainly not in bad condition at all. So it's in good repair, but it's just maybe not like granite countertops. And then you've got this 368 comp that's a little bit on the higher side. What do? 1,500 square feet, so a little bit smaller than the property we were looking at here, because our property was about 1,600 square feet. And we just kind of looked through the pictures. You got a little bit nicer countertops, still a little bit outdated, but overall it's a much smaller house. And so we want to just kind of compare. Backyard was pretty similar to ours, but this one has solar, so that's something to definitely watch out for. So you want to go into each one of these properties, what made them sell for that price. This one sold for $350. It was about 100 square feet smaller. It's got the same tile countertops and cabinets that ours had. So that's kind of where we get the similarities. We adjust a little bit for solar, we adjust a little bit for size, we adjust a little bit for all these different things. And then you just get a really competitive price. Listed it at $349, got $385. It's pretty awesome. That's how you find your comp. We'll do a little bit more in-depth video about how to adjust your property with some of the things that you want to pay attention to. But this is a good overview of how to search for your comps, and then how to just look at some of the pictures and do a little bit more digging as opposed to just taking the Zestimate right for face value and running with it. Sometimes you want to be a little bit more accurate. Make sure it's not coming in too low or too high. You want to make sure that you price your property right the first time.